Hi, I am Dr. Angelo Juan Ramos, and I will be presenting a video lecture series on doing results-based monitoring and evaluation. So there will be 3 videos for this series, and I will be guiding you through the 10 steps of results-based monitoring and evaluation. So let's start.
Okay, so let us begin with our slides on results monitoring and evaluation. This is Module 7 of Community e-Center Management Part 2. So this will be a 3-part series of video lectures, and this is Part 1. So let's start off with the objectives of this session. So hopefully by the end of this session, you as a student would be able to do the following. First, understand that there are 10 steps, yes, 10 steps towards a results-based monitoring evaluation. And in doing so, you need to develop a performance matrix for your CEC. So for this next couple of slides, I'll be giving some examples of doing a performance matrix. And we will learn how to use indicators in designing your monitoring and evaluation instruments. Okay, so let's proceed to step 1, which is conducting a readiness assessment. So basically, this very first step is when, as a CEC manager, you would study the ability, determine the ability of people around you to monitor and evaluate progress in achieving the goals that you have designated for your CEC. So in the very first step, you will need to gather people who you would think would be instrumental or would be very helpful in setting up a monitoring and evaluation system for your CEC. So you need to look for partners, perhaps perhaps from the core group, perhaps from sectoral representatives, staff of your CEC, and the staff of the municipality, and even the mayor can be a member of your CEC's monitoring and evaluation system. And once you've gathered these people, in the first step, you will basically determine whether or not the group that you have assembled is actually ready, okay, ready to do a monitoring and evaluation setup. So this is the readiness assessment that you would do in this first step. So one of the first things that you would do is to determine the roles and responsibilities of these different members once you have gathered them. So you need to ask the question, what will be the roles of the different partners in the monitoring and evaluation? Would some of them collect data? Would some of them do interviews? Would some of them be responsible for analysis, for example? And how do your partners share information with one another? So when different partners gather their data, how can they transmit this or share this with the other members? Will you set up a mailing list? Will you set up maybe weekly or monthly meetings wherein people can come together and share their information or data that they are monitoring or evaluating? So of course, who will produce the data in your group, and where will you use the data? Okay, so I guess this is where using the data to generate information and learning for evaluation comes in. Okay, and once you have determined the roles and responsibilities, you also need to see the skill level of the different members of your M&E team, and if necessary, you might need to conduct more capacity building or more training for the members of your M&E team, because in order for you to have an effective monitoring and evaluation team, you need to gather people that have skills in these 5 areas. So first, you need to have people who are good or are experienced in project and program management. So and then you need to have some people who are good at analyzing data, who are good in computing. So you might have statisticians here, for example. And then you have to have good people who have a broad experience in establishing project and program goals. So you might need to identify people who have experience in organizational design, in strategic planning, maybe those who have designed and implemented other projects in the past. You also need to have people who have good budget management experience, because developing an monitoring and evaluation for your CEC would also require some form of funding and would entail expenses. This is separate, of course, from the expenses that you would incur in managing and running your CEC. And the last type of skills level that you would need in your people is for some of them to have experience in auditing the performance of the people, not only the members of the M&E team, but maybe also audit the performance of the CEC knowledge workers and the CEC staff. Okay, so let's move on to step 2. Once you have set up the team, determined the roles and responsibilities, and also already built up the capacity of your people, you would then need to sit down and agree on a set of outcomes that you will use for your monitoring and evaluation, because the outcomes will determine the direction that your monitoring evaluation would need to take. Because if you look at this quote, if you do not know where you are going, any road will take you there. So it's very important for you to agree and to set on a specific set of outcomes that you would want to study or find out during your monitoring and evaluation initiative, right? So as a CEC manager, you would then again gather the different members of your M&E team, sit down, and go through a process of setting out and agreeing on which outcomes you would want to use. All right. So in this process, or in this gathering, you would invite different representatives from the various stakeholders in your community. Again, I would encourage that the core group would also be very active in monitoring evaluations. You would invite them. So once you have gathered all these people in one room, for example, you can have an exercise of identifying problems, developing problem trees, for example. So you would have all these people, coming up with various issues that they see as very challenging for community e-centers. So it would be good if you ask all of them to write their problems down on pieces of paper. Okay, so once you have gathered all these different problems and issues for your CEC, you would then need to convert or translate those critical problems that you have identified, or the common problems you identified. You need to translate and convert these problems into positive statements, and these positive statements will be your possible outcomes. And if you have positive statements as outcomes, it means that you would need to improve on the way your CEC is being run in order to attain those positive outcomes. Alright, so let's have a couple of examples for this in developing your outcome statements. So as I've said, once you've gone through the exercise of identifying problems, and when your different stakeholders have already come up with a laundry list of issues